Next up is Brian Rushe, who's going to speak on speaking up for agriculture, protecting farmer and social license.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I suppose walking across, I just have to remind myself that the last time I spoke in front of such a big crowd, it was the day I was married, and I got through that and seemed to have done quite well out of it, so surely I'll manage this. So listen, I suppose speaking up for agriculture, protecting farmer and social license is the title of my topic, and what motivated me to take this on was I've become increasingly concerned about the tone of the debate regarding conventional agriculture, especially regarding the intensification of our dairy production. And I think we're letting people run away with our side of the story and then using it to suit their own agendas. So the purpose of my report was to examine and identify the main threats to farming social licence and then formulate a strategy by which it could be protected. So, with GFP and personal study travel, I was lucky enough to visit Australia, Singapore, the Philippines, Hong Kong, China, Italy, France, and Canada and the US. So 8 countries, 24 flights, and 13 weeks of travel overall, and 60 plus interviews and meetings. I held meetings with everyone from lobby groups to research stations, to farmers, to ranch owners, to feedlot operators, and then big business like Monsanto and Syngenta. I suppose any conversation regarding public perception, you have to have Monsanto as part of it as well. So to give you a definition of what is social licence, so the concept of social licence refers to the level of public trust granted to a corporate entity or industry sector by the community at large and its key consumer base. And public trust is gained when an industry sector or an operations activities are believed to be consistent with social expectations and the values of its stakeholders. So when we think about Irish farming, our most important stakeholder, and the stakeholder that grants us our social licence, is the public. It's the Irish public. It's the person that lives in Dublin, lives in Galway, lives in Waterford, or it's the person that lives in rural Ireland. And some of them have a good knowledge of farming, but a lot of them don't. And that knowledge and that gap between farmer and public is growing larger. So why is Irish farming social licence important? So 3 reasons. Number one is social licence is important if we want to continue to secure agriculture's current contribution to the Irish economy. 9.25 billion euros worth of output and 14 to 15% of total employment. Agriculture then has an output multiplier of 1.73. So that means for every €1 of agricultural output, it results in 1.73 euros in overall output in the national economy. And when we compare that to all other sectors outside of agriculture, that amounts to only 1.47. So agriculture contributes, it's fair to say, about 18% more than all the other sectors combined. It's vital if we want to secure the targets held in the Food Rights 2025 report. We're so lucky to have that document, and we're so lucky to have a roadmap for the future growth. The targets held within it, if they're achieved, are going to benefit everyone on this island, both inside and outside of the sector. But the most important target held within that is that the increase in primary production by 65% to 10 billion euros. There's no point in targeting 19 billion or 19 billion of agri-exports and increase in value by 85% if we don't have the goods to produce it. Has to start at the farmer. So that's why you focus on that. It must, if we don't achieve primary production targets, every other target after that is just aspirational. And finally, agriculture's social contribution. To me, and after travelling around the world, I would argue that farming social contribution is more important than its economic contribution. And in Ireland, it's very easy for us to see that. Farm families spend 8 billion euros a year in the rural economy, and that between running a house and running a farm. And all that money is spent within 35 kilometres of that farmhouse. That keeps jobs in rural Ireland, it keeps GA clubs alive, it keeps post offices alive, it keeps rural schools alive. And in the last CSO, I suppose, when we removed the main population centres of Dublin, Galway, Waterford and Cork, only 3 counties experienced a population decline, and they were Sligo, Donegal and Mayo, which is a clear example of our contribution. So what are the threats to farming social licence? So I've identified 4 main threats. Number 1, anti-agriculture activist groups. Their sole agenda, be they motivated by environmental, animal welfare or animal rights, their sole agenda is the same. and their strategy is always the same. And that's to use any means necessary to create a negative perception, a perceived negative perception of farming, in order to force their vision of food production and agriculture, to get that to change, to match their values. So they do that with three main. They do this by, number one, playing on people's fears and emotions. And like I said, there's no better example of that picture there. They spread misinformation and half-truths. They never give the full outline of a report. And if a report comes out that doesn't suit their agenda, they will not report on it. And then finally, they create a disconnect between farmers and the public. Once there is a disconnect, immediately we breed suspicion. And after suspicion, there comes mistrust. And once there is mistrust between, it doesn't matter what business you're in, but once you lose that trust, you will lose social license. GoVegan.ie, like I remember 2 years ago, this is how quick this is moving. I would have never thought I would see an Irish, activist group like GoVegan.ie. They're a huge group, and now they're like there's posters all over Dublin, and they're actually targeting school children, especially all girls schools, because they recognise that especially young girls will be the key influencers in the future. They decide, they rear the family, they decide, and they make most decisions in the house. So by influence kids, they know that they'll move closer to their ultimate agenda. Social media and the internet. Listen, 71% of Irish people now use Facebook, and 45% use it now as a news and information source, according to that source there, the Reuters Institute. We all have smartphones. People now want their news and information in small 30-second bites. And social media then will also give the individual a loud voice and a platform to reach a massive global audience. Previous to social media and smartphones, I suppose that an activist group would have had to have a massive budget, a massive amount of followers that are going to carry their message and be very media savvy. But now, an activist group doesn't need a budget, they just need a smartphone, and they need one person to be good at, and they can open multiple accounts and push multiple agendas, and they can make an issue seem much larger than it is. And they have the time to put into this. So it's after social media makes their job a lot easier. If you do a simple Google search, it's impossible to filter the truth from the massive volume of misinformation contained within the Google search. If you Google search dairy calves, dairy farming, glyphosate, all topics that have been on GMO, for example, all very emotive topics. And if you Google that, you get millions of results. And a lot of that stuff is very negative. And for the informed, so someone like me or someone like anyone here in the audience, it's very easy to pick out the misinformation and the lies from the fact and pull them out straight away. But for the uninformed, or someone that's looking for information or concerned about food, because like you're dealing with something out in garden health to their kids, they can't filter that out, and they'll go straight to the bad news story or straight to the negative one, because that's what catches their eye. And there are no borders in the internet. So that, what I'm referring to there is that a campaign in New Zealand or Australia can have as an equal effect as a campaign in Ireland. We no longer have to only worry about people who are opposing agriculture in Ireland or opposing what we're trying to do. We have to be aware of other groups around the world are doing the same thing. And I suppose these are just two examples of I'm probably addicted to social media, if I'm honest. But on Tashka, who were originally a heritage group, are now becoming a very pro-environment group and a very anti-farming group. So, and a very post-food 2025. So this is just an IFA Media's environmental agenda. Wreck the environment and get subsidised to do it. Market produce as greenest in the world. And they will issue a press release then as well. But some people might say, that sure, no one will listen to that. But it's not. It's the sheer volume of stuff they're putting out on a daily basis. They could have 3 or 4 of them a day. And finally, I was debating whether to put this image up or not, but I think it tells its own story. This is by the group that would have highlighted the case Joe was talking in New Zealand regarding Bobby Cass. And what really piqued me in this came up on my sister's Facebook page. She asked me, and then they ran that as a full page ad in the Guardian newspaper in the UK, because the New Zealand crew targeted New Zealand's export market. And trying to get around that image or trying to explain that image, and you know yourself when you're explaining, you're losing. So a third thing as a trend is increasing farm size. So the trend is there. Between 1991 and 2000, be about 31,000 of a drop in farms. As Kevin told us earlier on, he's now farming where there was 3. So instead of 3 farmers, there's now 1. And that provides its own troubles. Bigger farms become bigger and easier targets. They're quite often labelled as corporate, environmentally damaging, lacking in welfare and driven by profit alone. And all those terms are being used to create this disconnect and to try to rubbish the idea of a family farm, or there could be a family involved there. It's just trying to kind of paint an industrialised picture of farming. And finally, Irish produce is being marketed home and abroad as coming from small family farms. And there's one company in particular, and I suppose I realised this when I was in Spain, and it's a packet of stuff, and you know, small Irish family farms. And I would be concerned that, are we painting an image of farming that is going to be increasingly hard to live up to in the future? Like my farm, for example, we're a farm milking 140 cows. We're not a traditional family farm in this case, because I'm the only one really involved, and my wife. We have a member of staff as well, so we don't fit that bracket. And a lot of Irish farms aren't going to fit that bracket in the future. And we just need to be aware of that. And is the image we're painting of Irish farming to suit the marketeers or to suit the farmers? Finally, you know, and probably most worryingly from my perspective, is that the Irish industry has failed to recognise the public as a stakeholder in the process. So I've already stated that the most important stakeholder in Irish ag is the Irish public. And without their trust, understanding and support, the targets held within the Food Wise 2025 report are, you know, they're only aspirations, as said before. Nowhere in the report is the public mentioned as a stakeholder. They're mentioned as a consumer. We need to change the way we look at them. And then changing public perception or public opposition is neither mentioned as a threat or a weakness in the SWOT analysis of the Food Wise 2025 targets. And like, it's important, the Food Wise 2025 report is so important to our industry, but it needs to be tightened up, and we need to go back and look and change our relationship with the public. They are our consumer, and don't get me wrong, that is very important. But they're also our neighbours. They have to look at, you know, like, what are they going to think about? There's An Taisceart saying that there's too much slurry in the country. Are they going to, like, if we're not part of the conversation, that's where they'll get their information. So we need to change our view and our relationship with the public. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, recommendations. I've recommended the adoption of a 5-step strategy. Number one is to identify suitable farmer spokespeople. Michael High spoke earlier on about authenticity, and farmer spokespeople are authentic, they're trustworthy, and they're credible. And when we provide them with an opportunity to speak without the label of a farmer organisation or an industry, and let them tell their story about why they farm and the values that they hold, they will connect with the public and they'll build trust. Capacity building refers to giving our farmer spokespeople the training, whether it be social media, public speaking training, blogging, all the tools, and it has to be on a constant basis to become credible and trustworthy spokespeople for our industry. Identify the issues. Focus groups held on a regular basis will identify key problems and key concerns that the public might have in the industry. And because this is happening, because this space is moving so quickly, that needs to be regular. It's not good enough to do it once every year or 2 years. It needs to be on probably a 6-month basis. That information would then be fed back to our farmer spokespeople and back to our industry. So they then can deal with the issues and stay relevant with people's concerns. Influencing the influencers. Influencers are key opinion leaders. Would be anyone the public turns to for advice or knowledge. So examples of that would be medical people, dietitians, doctors, nurses, media personalities, bloggers, celebrity chefs is actually a very big one now as well. And get them onto real farms, real commercial farms. I'm not talking bringing them to model farms or agricultural colleges, real commercial everyday farms where a farmer is just doing a good job. And let the farmer educate them on what he is doing and the contribution that not only he's making, his business is making with the whole industry. And then when these influencers go and talk to people, they can reach a massive audience. And if they have a positive experience on an Irish farm, like the influence they can have for us and then become spokespeople. So for very little money, we can reach a massive population. And proactive communications. It's no longer acceptable to only come out and speak about agriculture, defend agriculture's position in the economy in a time of crisis or in a time of negative public perception. Like, I suppose the horse meat saga in 2013 is a good example. We need to be there all the time. There is a debate that's going to happen about the future of Irish food production, whether we like it or not. And we have a decision to make now whether we want to be part of it and provide balance, or we want to let people run away with it. We need to be out there every opportunity we have with being proactive with our story. People don't care about how much you know until they hear how much you care, and that is what we need to do. we can educate people about the process and the science about farming all we want, but we'll lose them, we lose their interest. But if we tell them why we do it, the value we have in what we do, how proud we are of how we do it, and how our contribution then is benefiting the entire sector, we'll bring people with us instead of alienating them. And I suppose, listen, that picture, it kind of, for me, that's me and my son, and my wife took it in harvest there a few years ago, and it kind of it's everything I value in farming, and it's just me, like family. So that's my story. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Thank Nuffield Ireland, John and Bill, and in particular Karen, for all their help and support. Becoming a Nuffield scholar and being part of the network has opened up a part of agriculture that I thought, I didn't think existed. I'd like to thank the sponsors for all your help. The China GFP group, who almost became like family. My family and friends, especially my parents, for all their support, and my brother Mark, who ran the farm when I was away, and got silage made, and everyone was perfect. I couldn't have done it better myself. And finally, thanks Rebecca, my wife, and my two sons, John and Reese, and for allowing me to go on this journey. Thank you.